Before we start, this isn't a car review, it's a car life review. Everything in this video comes from people who drive this car every single day. Their mornings, their commutes, their road trips, their repair bills, the real stuff, so that when you make your decision, you're making it with the full picture. I drive this car every day, Monday through Friday, same route, same time. 6:45 a.m., keys off the hook, coffee in one hand, bag in the other. And after more than a year of living with the 2026 Kia Sportage, I can tell you exactly what daily ownership actually feels like. Not the press launch version, not the showroom version, the version where you're stuck in traffic on the M25 at 8 a.m. and the only thing between you and losing your mind is whether this cabin is a nice place to be. So let's start right there, the cabin. Because this is where you're going to spend 95% of your time with this car, and it's where the Sportage genuinely earns its reputation. The dual 12.3-inch panoramic display stretches across the dash, and it looks premium. Genuinely premium. Owners across Reddit, Edmunds, and multiple forums consistently say the same thing. The interior looks and feels like something from a car that costs $10,000 or $15,000 more. The materials, the stitching on the door panels, the way the ambient lighting catches the edges of the console at night, it punches well above its weight. An owner on Reddit, based in Dallas, Texas, picked up a 2025 Sportage SX Prestige and said he came from a BMW X1. His exact words, "The Sportage interior made the BMW feel dated." He drives it daily, 40 minutes each way on I-35, and says the seats are still comfortable after a year. The cabin stays quiet on the highway, and the wireless Apple CarPlay connects before he's reached the end of his street every single morning. When asked if he'd buy it again, he wrote, "In a heartbeat. It's the best value car I've ever owned." Now, here's where it gets interesting. Because the Sportage does something clever with its center console that owners either love or learn to work around. The climate and media controls share the same touch-sensitive panel. You press a button to toggle between them. When it's on HVAC mode, the knobs control your temperature and fan speed. Switch it to media, and those same knobs now control volume and radio tuning. In theory, it's clean and minimalist. In practice, according to owners across multiple forums, it can be genuinely annoying, especially when you reach for the temperature on a cold morning in Toronto and accidentally crank the volume instead. This comes up consistently. It's one of those things that only becomes clear after you've lived with the car for a few weeks. The workaround most owners recommend, and this is from a thread on the Kia forums with dozens of replies, is to leave the panel on HVAC mode permanently and use the steering wheel buttons for media. Once you learn that habit, the frustration mostly disappears. But it's the kind of thing you should know about before you buy, not 6 months later. Let's talk about what this car feels like on the road. Because the 2026 model brought some meaningful changes here, retuned dampers and updated transmission logic, and owners who upgraded from the 2023 or 2024 models say the difference is noticeable. The ride is smoother, the throttle response is more natural, the transmission, an 8-speed automatic on the petrol models, a 6-speed on the hybrid, shifts more confidently. But here's the split. If you're looking at the standard 2.5-liter petrol engine, you need to know that multiple owners and reviewers describe it as, and this word comes up often, sleepy. It's not slow, exactly. It'll do the job. But on highway on-ramps, when you're merging onto the Pacific Highway near Parramatta, or pulling onto the M6 outside Birmingham, it can feel like the car needs a moment to gather itself. One owner on an Australian forum, driving the S2.0-liter petrol, put it simply, "It's fine for the commute, but if you're coming from anything with a turbo, you'll feel the difference." The hybrid, on the other hand, and this is a theme you see across the forums, is the version most owners recommend. The combination of the 1.6-liter turbo petrol and the electric motor gives you better acceleration, better fuel economy, and a more responsive driving experience overall. Owners regularly report real-world figures of around 37 to 40 miles per gallon in mixed driving, roughly 6 to 7 liters per 100 kilometers. On the highway at a steady 65 to 70 miles per hour, owners on Edmunds report around 30 to 32 mph for the AWD hybrid. Push past 75 mph, and that number drops into the high 20s. It's a theme across forums that the Sportage is speed sensitive on fuel. Now let me share the other side, because this part is where knowing the daily reality really matters. Several owners of the hybrid and PHEV models have reported premature 12-volt battery issues. This is the small auxiliary battery, not the main hybrid battery. On a thread in the Kia forums, an owner in Melbourne driving a 2024 Sportage HEV had his 12-volt battery die at 11 months, leaving the car unable to start in his driveway on a Monday morning. The dealer replaced it under warranty, no charge. But it's worth knowing that this has come up across multiple independent reports, and this next part is something that only shows up after a few months. On the hybrid models specifically, a few owners have noticed early grooving on the rear brake rotors. The theory, supported by a technical service bulletin from Kia, TSB CHA 126V, is that the regenerative braking system means the physical brakes get used less frequently, which can cause surface corrosion and uneven wear. If your dealer catches it early, it's often covered under warranty. If not, rotor replacement runs around $350 to $600 per axle, roughly 550 to 950 AUD, or 300 to 500 pounds in the UK. Stay with me, because the next part puts this in a completely different light. Because the ownership costs on the Sportage are genuinely reasonable. In Australia, Kia offers capped price servicing for the first 7 years, or 5,000 kilometers. In the UK, dealers offer fixed-price Kia Care service plans, typically around £450 to £750 for the first 2 to 3 scheduled services. In the US, 5-year maintenance and repair costs are estimated at around $5,000 to $6,000 total. And then there's the warranty, 7 years in Australia and the UK, 5 years in the US, which is still one of the strongest in the business. Practicality. This is the part where the Sportage really shines for families. The boot space, 543 to 591 liters depending on the powertrain, seats up, is one of the largest in the class. Owners doing the weekly Woolworths run or the Costco trip consistently mention how much fits back there. The dual-level cargo floor is a small detail that makes a genuine difference. Hide the valuables underneath, stack the groceries on top. An owner in Auckland, driving the SX Plus, said she fits 2 kids, a pram, the weekly shop, and the dog bed without ever needing to fold the seats down. That's the daily life test, and the Sportage passes it. The rear legroom is genuinely best in class. Adults sit comfortably, ISOFIX points are easy to reach. The doors open wide enough to wrangle a child seat in a tight car park, though a few owners have mentioned that in the multi-story at Westfield, the Sportage feels just a touch wider than they'd like. If you're watching this and you already own this car, I'd genuinely love to know if your experience matches, because the picture that emerges from the research is clear. This is a car that most people genuinely enjoy living with. The interior punches above its weight. The hybrid is the sweet spot for driving experience and fuel economy. The tech is impressive, the warranty is strong, and the daily life stuff, the morning start, the school run, the highway drive, the boot space, it all works. The things to know. The touch-sensitive controls take adjustment. The base petrol engine could use more urgency. The 12-volt battery on hybrid models is worth keeping an eye on, and the brake rotors on the hybrid may need attention earlier than you'd expect. None of these are deal breakers. They're the kinds of things that become part of what you know about your car. The stuff you tell a friend over coffee when they say they're thinking about buying one. Pricing starts at around $28,690 in the States, $37,990 AUD in Australia before on-road costs, and about £31,395 in the UK. The hybrid commands a premium. In Australia, it starts at $46,450 AUD. But most owners say the driving experience and fuel savings justify the difference over the life of ownership. As of today, July 2026, this is what daily ownership looks like for most people. Things evolve. Kia improves things. Software updates roll out. New model years come. Always check the latest before you decide. And as always, we're not mechanics, we're not financial advisors, and we're not telling you what to buy. We're sharing what real owners experience every day. Do your own research, check the forums for your specific model year and region, and trust your own judgment. If you own this car, I want to hear your experience. What surprised you? What do you love? What would you change? Drop your car, your city, and your honest take in the comments. I read every single one, and they shape future videos. And if there's a car you want us to explore, tell me. We'll find the real daily owners and give you the complete picture. We covered the Toyota RAV4 recently, and the daily ownership experience is surprisingly different. The car that most owners compare the Sportage to, we're covering it next. 131.